Oh god. Alright, let's go.
Hello and welcome, and this is 5 tips that you should remember when studying audit.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Nelson. And so what we hope is that these 5 tips will help you get the best result when you study auditing. The first tip is to really remember the purpose of auditing in everything you do. So it's also common that students will start an auditing subject and then forget about what the purpose of auditing is. Like auditing is about, they'll think auditing is about making financial statements look better. Auditing is all about ensuring that the financial statements, right, what they give to shareholders and investors, ensuring that reflects the underlying reality, right, the transactions that actually happened. What's our second tip?
So the second one is to always remember that auditing is more than learning definitions. So we're going to come across a lot of new words, and yes, we will have to learn what those mean. But in terms of studying auditing, it's very important to understand the concept that underlies that definition and that new terminology that we are getting used to throughout the course. So when I was doing my PhD, my supervisors introduced me to this concept called the grandma test.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite helpful in auditing as well. So the idea is here that when you learn a new concept, you should always try to remember or think about, am I able to explain that to my grandma? So if you go over to your grandma's house, have a cup of tea, and if you were to explain to her, what is audit risk, for example? What are financial assertions? Are you able to explain what those actually are so that she understands? Or your grandpa, for that sake.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can explain it in really simple words, it's much more likely to make sense to you. Right?
Absolutely.
So if you're using all these complicated words to explain something, it's probably because you haven't really boiled it down to the fundamentals.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. That's a really great tip.
Yeah, what's your third one?
Third one is, relate auditing where you can to your own experiences, right? So a lot of you, I'm sure, have worked in some capacity as in a part-time job, whether it be at McDonald's or any other organization, right? And when you actually think about it, a lot of the things you did, in your part-time job probably related back to audit, right? Or audit-related risk that you helped manage as an employee. And so, Rebecca, you used to work in a hotel.
I did.
So what kind of risks can you think of and relate to your experience?
So I worked as a receptionist, and here we obviously have to deal with some cash. And the risk here for an auditor is to make sure that the cash or the petty cash actually exists.
Yep.
So for example, one thing I used to do when I'd start my shift, I'd have to go to the manager and I'd have to then get the bag of money out of the safe. They'd have to unlock it. I was not allowed to be given the key. Then the first thing I have to do is count the cash, then make sure that it's actually the specific amount that it was meant to be. I have to sign for it, then I go to my shift, do whatever I need to do, and then at the end of the shift I again need to count it, sign for it, and then give it back to the manager to put it back into the safe, and then it continues from there.
Yeah, okay. So there's obviously the counting of the cash, that's a manual process, as well as the sign-off, which is the accountability element, where you're ensuring that the person who counted the cash, you know who it is, so that they're less likely to do something maybe a bit unscrupulous.
Yeah.
So we're basically protecting cash from being stolen.
Yeah.
So that whatever shows up in the accounts as what the company's petty cash is, that's actually what's sitting in the safe, because we have those controls in place.
Yeah,
that's pretty great. And so our final tip is intuition. I think you need to apply intuition to ensure that if it makes sense to you, more than likely it makes sense to the marker. And so intuition is important because we use a lot of judgment in auditing, right? It's about professional judgments, making decisions. There is no clear right and wrong. And so once you apply your intuition, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be able to make more informed sort of decisions and better design procedures and plans, right? Because there's no fixed way of doing auditing, is there?
No.
You get dumped a bunch of rules and then you get told, design procedures, audit the company, right?
Yep.
And because there's no particular way of doing it, well, use your own intuition of what you think is right.
Yeah. So hopefully those are some useful tips.
Best of luck.